The most coveted engagement ring in the world, the legend of Tiffany. There's a curious belief, and almost no one questions it, that true love needs to be proven. Not felt, not lived, proven. And that's exactly where one of the greatest paradoxes of modern luxury was born. A simple ring managed to become more powerful than words, promises, and even years of relationship. While many believe that jewelry is just ostentation, the truth is more uncomfortable. Human beings have always sought visible symbols to validate invisible feelings. The most intriguing thing is that no one woke up one day deciding to desire that ring. The desire was taught, repeated, and refined over time until it seemed natural, as if it had always been that way. And perhaps that's what's most unsettling. Realizing that what we call tradition may have actually been a brilliant construct of the human mind, a construct that blends love, status, psychology, and strategic silence. But here's the counterintuitive statement. It's not about the ring. It never was. It's about what it activates in people, in relationships, and even in how someone sees themselves within a commitment. Understanding this logic completely changes the way you view luxury, choices, and even important life decisions. And from here, everything starts to make sense, including why some brands transcend generations, while others disappear without a trace. The birth of a symbol. How Tiffany transformed a simple ring into a global myth. In the beginning, there was no legend at all, just a goldsmith attentive to human behavior. When Tiffany Co. When engagement rings emerged in the 19th century, they didn't carry the emotional weight that seems obvious today. They were just beautiful jewels, without a script, without collective expectations. But the brand realized something that almost no one else saw. People weren't buying gold or diamonds, they were buying meaning. And let's face it, whoever understands meaning controls desires, decisions, and memories. While other jewelers fought over glitz and price, Tiffany took a different approach. It built a narrative. The ring came to represent promise, exclusivity, and a specific kind of love. Love that can be seen, recognized, and socially validated. Gradually, the idea was hammered into the collective mind, until it seemed like an ancient tradition. It's curious how certain traditions are born more from strategy than from history, isn't it? But when done well, nobody questions them. A simple example helps illustrate this. Consider how a family heirloom wedding ring carries more emotional value than a new one, even if it's less expensive. Tiffany did exactly that, but on a global scale. It gave a soul to an object. It created such a strong emotional connection that when someone thinks of engagement, the image comes to mind almost automatically. And that's precisely where the big turning point begins. Because transforming an object into a symbol is only the first step in something even bigger. The Tiffany Setting. The design that forever changed how we view engagements. After transforming the ring into a symbol, the next step came. And here lies the silent genius. The brand understood that it wasn't enough to carry meaning. It needed to shape people's perspective. That's how a seemingly simple, almost obvious design was born, but one that no one had dared to do before. To raise the diamond, leave it suspended, visible from all angles, as if to say, there's nothing to hide. An aesthetic gesture that became an emotional statement. This technical detail completely changed the game. Until then, the diamond remained trapped, protected, discreet. By raising it, the ring began to interact with the light, and consequently with the gaze of others. In practice, love ceased to be intimate and became public. It's like someone who stops whispering feelings and starts declaring them aloud. The design taught the world to see engagement not as a silent promise, but as a clear announcement of commitment. In real life, this happens all the time. Think of a professional who decides to take a stand, showcase their work, and make themselves visible. The talent was always there, but it only gains value when it's seen. The same is true for the ring. The diamond has always been valuable, but it only became an icon when it took center stage. And this seemingly aesthetic movement hides something even deeper, because when design educates desire, the next step no longer depends on rational choice. The perfect diamond. The rigorous standards that have made Tiffany the absolute benchmark. Once the symbol and design were established, something that few people notice at first glance came into play: pattern control. The brand understood that, to sustain the myth, it couldn't rely solely on narrative. It needed real, measurable, almost obsessive excellence. That's when the idea of selecting, rejecting, and polishing diamonds with a level of rigor bordering on exaggeration was born. And curiously, it is precisely this exaggeration that creates trust. While the market accepted almost anything, Tiffany began saying no more often than yes. Most of the world's diamonds simply don't meet the house's criteria. This creates a powerful psychological effect. When something is difficult to accept, it automatically becomes more desirable. It's like an exclusive club that doesn't advertise. The fewer people who get in, the more people want to be a part of it. The value isn't just in the stone, but in the filter. In practice, this applies directly to life. People who say yes to everything end up losing perceived value. Those who choose carefully convey authority. A good example? Professionals who work with limited schedules, selected projects, or clear standards tend to be more respected, even if they charge more. The perfect diamond isn't born ready-made. It's chosen, polished, and often rejected before being accepted. And this logic, when well understood, prepares the ground for something even more invisible: the mind of the one who desires to possess it. The psychology of luxury. Why the Tiffany ring became a public display of love, power, and prestige. Here the conversation gets even more interesting, because we're no longer talking about jewelry. We're talking about human behavior. The ring ceases to be a private object and begins to function as a social symbol. It communicates something without the person needing to say a word. Love, yes, but also ability, intention, commitment, and even social standing. Ultimately, the human brain loves clear, easy-to-read symbols, almost like an emotional shortcut. There's an unspoken rule in society: the less you need to explain, the more power you convey. The ring fulfills exactly this role. It eliminates questions, assumptions, and doubts. It's like driving a car everyone recognizes, or wearing a watch that speaks for you. The person doesn't need to assert themselves. The symbol does it for them. And it's precisely this economy of words that transforms luxury into something so desirable. In real life, this happens all the time. Think of someone who dresses well, speaks little, and maintains a firm posture. Presence communicates before words. The ring operates on this same logic. It validates the relationship externally, generates immediate recognition, and creates a sense of emotional security. But this validation doesn't happen by chance. It's carefully built, nurtured, and reinforced. And that's where an even quieter and more powerful element comes in: the way the brand communicates without seeming like it's selling. Silent marketing. How Tiffany sells a ring without ever mentioning the price. Here lies one of the most elegant plays on luxury. When price disappears from the conversation, value takes over. Instead of announcing numbers, the brand teaches the public to desire first, justify later. The focus has never been on how much it costs, but on what it represents. And when someone buys meaning, the price becomes a technical detail, almost bureaucratic. It's as if the decision had already been made long before the wallet was opened. Strategic silence creates authority. Brands that shout discounts need to convince. Brands that whisper choose who enters. By avoiding talking about prices, the experience remains pure, emotional, almost ritualistic. The customer doesn't feel like a buyer, but someone who has been accepted into that universe. It's a feeling similar to entering a restaurant without a visible menu. The brain understands that it's not about paying less. It's about experiencing something rare. This is extremely applicable to professional life. Those who deliver real value don't need to compete on price. They define criteria, build a reputation, and let the market adjust. Think of doctors, architects, or mentors who work by referral and never publicly advertise their fees. The price exists, of course, but it only appears after the desire has already been created. And when the desire is at the right point, just one small final detail is enough to seal everything. A simple, visual, almost childlike detail, but incredibly powerful. Celebrities, royalty, and Hollywood. How true stories transformed the ring into a legend. When an idea is already strong, all it takes is a good story to make it timeless. And that's exactly what happened when the ring started appearing on the right hands at the right times. Celebrities, members of high society, and movie characters helped solidify the ring's image as something aspirational. It wasn't direct advertising, it was a living narrative. People weren't seeing a product, they were seeing a chapter of a story they also wanted to live. Hollywood played an almost educational role in all of this. Films taught, without any didacticism, what an unforgettable marriage proposal should be like. The right lighting, restrained emotion, a symbolic gesture, and, of course, the ring as the turning point of the scene. The human brain learns through emotional repetition. The more these scenes were repeated, the more the audience internalized the idea that that object was part of the script of ideal love. In practical life, this explains why references matter so much. When someone sees people they admire doing something, the action gains automatic legitimacy. It's the same effect as a book recommended by someone you respect or a habit adopted by a mentor. The choice ceases to seem risky and begins to seem obvious. But notice, even with so much exposure, there was still an element that sealed the experience definitively. Something small, blue, and seemingly simple, but emotionally devastating. The most powerful blue box in the world. The blue box effect. There's a precise moment when the decision ceases to be rational and becomes pure emotion. And that moment happens even before the ring appears. The famous blue box isn't packaging. It is emotional trigger. It prepares the brain, creates anticipation, and transforms seconds into eternity. It's curious how such a simple object can provoke silence, a nervous smile, and even tears. Those who understand this realize that the experience begins long before the product itself. The secret lies in anticipation. The human brain reacts more strongly to what is about to happen than to what has already happened. The blue box acts as a soundtrack before the climax of a film. It says, "Something important is coming," without needing to explain anything. It's the same effect as seeing the cover of a book you love or hearing the first chords of a memorable song. Emotion arrives before logic. In practical life, this teaches a powerful lesson. How you deliver something is just as important as what you deliver. A simple, well-presented gift can surpass something expensive given carelessly. Professionals who know how to prepare the ground, whether in a meeting, a proposal, or a difficult conversation, have a much greater impact. And when emotion is handled with precision, the next step happens almost automatically, because now something even rarer than desire comes into play. The feeling of exclusivity built over time. Why even millionaires wait months for a Tiffany ring. Controlled scarcity and handcrafted production. Here's where a concept that confuses many people comes in. Those who can have everything quickly often choose. Wait, Tiffany has never been in a hurry. And that's not a flaw. It's a strategy. The handcrafted production, the rigorous processes, and the almost ritualistic care create a clear feeling. This wasn't made for just anyone, nor for just any moment. Time becomes part of the value, not an obstacle. Waiting changes perception. When something is immediate, the brain treats it as commonplace. When it requires patience, it treats it as an achievement. This is the same reason why trips planned for months are more memorable than impulsive decisions. Waiting builds an internal narrative, creates expectation, and reinforces the importance of the choice. Each day of anticipation validates the decision made long ago. In real life, this applies to solid projects. Lasting businesses, respected careers, and deep relationships rarely arise from immediacy. They require building, refining, and above all, tolerance for time. Those who understand this stop chasing the quick fix and start investing in consistency. And when time becomes an ally, the inevitable question arises: how to keep this desire alive for entire generations without losing relevance. The future of the legend. How Tiffany keeps the ring relevant even after more than a century. Maintaining relevance for decades is rare. Spanning centuries is nearly impossible. But Tiffany understood early on that tradition only survives when it engages with the present. Instead of fighting against time, the brand learned to walk with it, adjusting language, processes, and values, without touching the heart of the legend. The ring remains the same symbol, but speaks to new generations in a subtle, almost imperceptible way. The secret lies in the balance between innovation and respect for legacy. Campaigns, technologies, and discourse change, but the ritual remains intact. It's like updating an old house without touching the foundation. The public feels secure because they recognize the history, and curious because they perceive movement. This combination creates lasting trust, something that few brands and few people manage to sustain over a lifetime. This serves as a practical lesson in personal positioning. Those who constantly change lose their identity. Those who never change lose relevance. True growth happens when you evolve without betraying yourself. Whether in career, business, or relationships, the question is never, "What will I abandon?" but "What will I preserve while I move forward?" And when that answer becomes clear, the entire previous path begins to make even more sense. After understanding all of this construction, symbolism, design, psychology, strategic silence, and timing, it becomes impossible to continue looking at important life choices in the same way. The great lesson here is not about jewelry but about how value is created, sustained, and perceived. How many decisions have you made automatically without realizing the symbols you are building, or failing to build, in your own story? Think carefully. What you consider a detail today may be exactly what defines how people see you tomorrow. Do your projects have an identity? Do your decisions carry meaning? Have you invested in things that stand the test of time, or only in what delivers quick results? Luxury, in the end, is coherence between intention, action, and patience. Now I'll make you a direct invitation. Choose an area of your life, career, relationships, or personal projects, and apply this logic today. Create value before talking about price. Build meaning before seeking recognition. And if this kind of reflection has made you see the world in a different way, subscribe to the channel, turn on notifications, and continue learning how seemingly simple decisions can change everything when made consciously.